In Britain and across Europe, free speech, I fear, is in retreat.
The air is charged with obvious anxiety as the United Kingdom confronts a crisis unlike any it has ever known. Donald Trump and JD Vance have started a double-pronged attack on the UK across the Atlantic, an aggressive tariff threat supported by ridiculous, provocative comments regarding free speech and democracy in Britain and Europe.
I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration.
The consequences are very terrible. The very foundations of British economic and democratic stability quake as Trump's team reveals a radical plan to impose reciprocal tariffs, based partly on the nation's VAT, a move that could possibly destroy British businesses, and JD Vance rails against what he calls a backsliding on free speech. This is a serious warning for Prime Minister Keir Starmer. His leadership, as well as the destiny of the United Kingdom, hangs perilously in the balance should the UK fail to win respect from the Trump administration and its allies. Make sure to like and subscribe for more.
And under Donald Trump's leadership, we may disagree with your views, but we will fight to defend your right to offer it in the public square, agree or disagree.
Imagine the Trump administration's economic muscular flexing as the sound of an approaching storm. Now on the horizon are tariffs that might surge to 20% or more, endangering important industries including food and drink, pharmaceuticals, and manufacturing. Once sheltered by a strong trade relationship with the United States, British companies now confront the terrible possibility of punitive policies that would cause ballooning prices, job losses, and a sharp drop in competitiveness elsewhere. Such a shockwave has inconceivable resonance that begs serious existential concerns about the very viability of the UK's economy.
And perhaps most concerningly, I look to our very dear friends, the United Kingdom, where the backslide away from conscience rights has placed the basic liberties of religious Britons in particular in the crosshairs.
Threat from a savage new tariff. The recent words from Donald Trump have rocked the London power corridors. The UK is now fully in the sights rather than only a passive actor in transatlantic trade ties.
I'm just doing what's fair. This is a very fair thing. This should have been done a long time ago.
Clear from Trump's government is that their new reciprocal tariffs will include value-added tax, VAT, an unheard-of action that many experts say will cause chaos on British exports. Imagine a situation in which items as ordinary as vehicles and medications suddenly pay an additional 20% tax load just for Atlantic crossing. Already struggling with intense worldwide competition, British producers would now find themselves seriously behind.
The EU's been very nasty. It's just been, they haven't treated us properly.
This tariff threat is political provocation meant to drive the UK into a state of surrender, not only a financial one. Such policies run the risk of upsetting accepted trade rules, according to the British Chambers of Commerce, therefore generating an unpredictable environment that might affect every sector of the economy. Should Britain fail to build a respectful relationship with Trump's America, the consequences might be disastrous. This is a real, immediate risk, not a theoretical exercise, and every instant of doubt or poor leadership simply increases the risk as the time runs out.
Well, what they are now is they have a 20% VAT tax, which we're considering to be similar or the same as the tariff.
The scathing commentary of JD Vance. While Trump is using his economic muscles, JD Vance has advanced the ideological battle. With a voice dripping in contempt, Vance said at the Munich Security Conference that there is a new sheriff in town, a sharp, unvarnished assessment directed at the United Kingdom and Europe over what he believes to be a dangerous backsliding on free speech and democratic values. Vance's remarks cut deep. He denounced British authorities for allowing backslide away from conscience rights, and cautioned that such degradation of freedom poses a threat to the fundamental foundation of Western principles.
If you can't have free speech in a society, if you're not allowed to offend each other through the declaration of your views, however awful they might be, then that's the end of democracy.
Vance was not sparing in his remarks. He referenced contentious UK incidents such as the conviction of a man in Bournemouth for violating safe zones around an abortion facility as proof Britain is sacrificing its own fundamental rights. Vance claims that these laws not only restrict free expression, but also expose a systematic collapse to maintain democracy in its most authentic form. This is not only a domestic policy concern in his view, it's a call to a dramatic overhaul of the values that have, until now, defined Western civilization.
And more all over Europe, they're voting for political leaders who promise to put an end to out-of-control migration.
Starmer's leadership under risk. For Prime Minister Keir Starmer, Trump's tariff threat and Vance's explosive language taken together represent nothing less than a death knell. Starmer is immobilized by uncertainty, a follower hiding behind the established institutions he's supposed to command, instead of leading boldly and visionally. Many people wonder whether he's able to defend the interests of the country against the erratic policies of Trump's government, as he cannot create a strong autonomous posture in front of these obstacles.
So for everyone on the right, I think our priority should be find common ground and defeat Labour, because we just have to get rid of this disastrous government.
Starmer's style has been one of careful deflection rather than forceful leadership. Regarding tariffs, he's only given nebulous guarantees that the UK will negotiate from a position of strength as Trump's team advances with its agenda. Regarding the free speech debate, Starmer has repeated the views of established friends like NATO, instead of developing a bold local defence of British values. This respect for outside organisations and accepted standards points to a leader more suited in a supporting capacity than in a driving one. A troubling behaviour given the current high stakes.
First mission, get rid of Labour.
The perils of not commanding respect. When the head of a country cannot inspire the respect of one of its most important allies, the United States, what results? The response is clear. The nation is left exposed, cut off, and prone to geopolitical and economic breakdown. Should Trump's proposed tariff plans be carried out, British companies most affected would suffer. A trade war looms big, one that could see Britain's exports collapse, consumer prices skyrocketing, and economic development stopped dead stop. Every day that goes by without a strong autonomous alliance developing makes Starmer's situation further intolerable.
I believe there is nothing more urgent than mass migration.
Furthermore, adding another level of intricacy is J.D. Vance's merciless attack on Britain's dedication to free speech. Should the UK be seen as slippering basic democratic values, not only does the nation's reputation suffer, but also the moral authority of its leaders suffers. For Starmer, this is a double blow. Not only is his administration likely to set off a devastating trade war with Trump's America, but it is also being presented as a weak, indecisive force, unable of defending the basic values upon which contemporary democracies are based.
The number of immigrants who entered the EU from non-EU countries doubled between 2021 and 2022 alone, and of course it's gotten much higher since. And we know the situation, it didn't materialize in a vacuum.
The economic damage, a nation on edge. The possible financial consequences of Trump's tariff threat are just disastrous. For British exporters, including VAT into the tariff computation could result in unanticipated expenses. Analysts have cautioned Britain might be faced with penalties that would raise the cost of goods by 21% or more should the US apply tariffs on a nation-by-nation basis. Industries the lifeblood of the UK economy, cars, drugs, food and drink, could suffer greatly. Such tariffs, according to the British Chambers of Commerce, would generate uncertainty and discourage investment, and therefore impede development. The effects might be disastrous for consumers and small enterprises both. Higher manufacturing costs would probably be passed on to consumers as higher prices, so lowering disposable income and maybe causing a wider economic crisis. The application of these levies may cause the nation currently suffering the effects of Brexit and global economic uncertainty to teeter on disaster. And all the while, Starmer's government seems helpless, stuck in a loop of uncertainty and reactive politics, a stark alert to British government. Amid these stormy events, one clear message stands out. The implications could be severe if Prime Minister Keir Starmer cannot find a strong autonomous alliance with the US and project a bold future vision for the country. Trump's forceful tariff threat and J.D. Vance's biting analysis of European democratic ideals, taken together, provide a call to clear, bold leadership. But rather than rising to the occasion, Starmer's actions, or lack thereof, indicate that he is happy to copy others. Right now, the path is somewhat disturbing. Britain finds itself at a crossroads confronting challenges on several fronts, including ideological, geopolitical, and financial ones. The need of strong leadership has never been more pressing given Trump's team poised to unleash a tsunami of tariffs that might destroy the UK economy and Vance warning of a free speech crisis compromising the very basis of Western democracy. But Starmer's circumspect, defensive stance begs a crucial existential question. Is he the shepherd Britain needs, or merely a sheep in a flock too frightened to question the current quo? Powerful cliffhangers, inquiries that challenge the future. As this high-stakes drama unfolds, the following provocative, cliff-hanging questions remain that will determine the fate of Britain's future. Will Prime Minister Starmer muster the courage to break free from his reactive, follower-like approach and form a robust, independent partnership with the US? Or will his indecision leave Britain isolated and vulnerable to Trump's punitive tariffs? How will British businesses and consumers cope with the potential economic onslaught if Trump's new tariff measures, built on the unprecedented use of VAT, are fully implemented? What will be the long-term impact on the UK's international standing if figures like J.D. Vance continue to expose what they see as a dangerous backslide on free speech and democratic values? Can Britain afford to be led by a government that appears more interested in deferring to external institutions than in taking bold, decisive action in the face of mounting global challenges? In the wake of these aggressive moves from across the Atlantic, will Starmer's government be forced to radically rethink its strategy, or will it continue down a perilous path that could jeopardize the nation's economic and democratic future? These questions are not merely rhetorical, they cut to the very heart of British leadership and the challenges it faces in a rapidly changing global landscape. The need of explicit action. The stakes cannot be higher. Britain sits on the brink of a new age marked by uncertainty, isolation, and possible economic catastrophe as Trump's aggressive tariff proposals and Vance's harsh rejection of European ideals create a deadly mix of ideological and financial hazards. Leaders of the country must act boldly, show the kind of visionary leadership that inspires confidence and guarantees the future of the country, therefore securing its existence. Every moment of doubt or uncertainty on the part of Starmer and his government just helps to empower their rivals. Trump's America makes it quite evident that Britain will suffer consequences if it breaks the new guidelines. Furthermore, highlighting the larger ideological problem of today, the retreat of free speech and democratic norms, and the possibility that Britain, once a pillar of defence of these values, might become a spectator in its own death, are J.D. Vance's harsh warnings, a grim future for a nation on approach. For those with British nationality, the ramifications are frightening. Imagine a time where British-made goods are subject to outrageous tariffs, and when retaliatory actions taken by an ever more belligerent US government cause the cost of daily commodities to surge. Imagine a situation when a complacent reactive government undermines the ideals that once constituted Britain: freedom of expression, democratic responsibility, and a proud tradition of independent thought. Should Starmer and his colleagues fail to meet the challenge, this is the bleak future we stand to inherit. Just the economic influence might be astounding. Key sectors hit hard by new tariffs could cause job losses to rise, consumer prices to soar, and the whole economic environment to be thrown off. Such a situation would not only tax public resources, but also cause general social turmoil, a country split by economic crisis and a strong sense of betrayal by its leaders. A demand for transformational leadership. The moment for half measures and hollow assurances is past. Britain requires a leader who is not hesitant to face these obstacles head-on. A leader who is ready to stray from the boundaries of traditional diplomacy and plot a daring, autonomous route for the country. The present calls for radical leadership capable of harnessing national energies, motivating its people, and turning uncertainty into opportunity. For Prime Minister Keir Starmer, the decision is rather clear. Will he keep down the careful deferral road depending on antiquated alliances and outside institutions to protect him from responsibility? Alternatively, will he grab this opportunity, face the challenges head-on, lead Britain with the vision and bravery needed for our turbulent times? The response to this question will decide not merely his political legacy, but also the course of Britain itself. The final opinion, a nation at the crossroads. One thing is brutally obvious as the drama plays out. Britain is at a crossroads as the twin threats of aggressive tariffs and ideological assaults loom huge. Its democratic values, future of its economy, and global reputation rest on the choices taken in the next days and weeks. With Donald Trump's tariff threat and the terrible prospect of a trade war based on VAT calculations casting a long shadow over British industry, and with J.D. Vance's explosive comments challenging the very essence of free speech and democracy, the demand for decisive visionary leadership has never been more urgent. One obvious flaw that might cost Britain greatly is Keir Starmer's seeming incapacity to exercise his authority and lead from the front. Should he keep behaving as a hesitant follower, protecting his ministers and caving into outside pressure, the United Kingdom could find itself isolated on the international scene, with its democratic institutions and economy fraying under control. The moment has come for true leadership, a leadership that is ready to face the most urgent problems, that is ready to make the difficult decisions even when they are unpopular, and that can inspire confidence in a country on the verge. The decision is clear: either respond to the challenge and steer Britain toward a bright new path, or risk being crushed under the weight of unrelenting global pressure while the world observes. The issue still stands: will Keir Starmer muster the will to lead, or will he keep running behind the consoling cover of outside allies, leaving Britain to negotiate a dangerous future? The stakes rise, and the need of decisive action becomes even more pressing with every moment that pass. The country waits with bated breath for a leader who can convert this approaching catastrophe into a chance for rebirth. And for now, the solution is still mostly unknown. Stay tuned as we chronicle this fascinating narrative in which every tariff threat, every controversial comment, and every act of doubt could decide the fate of a nation. Now is the moment for strong, uncompromising leadership. The future of Britain rests on this.